The Titans have locked up the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. We're going to talk about how it happened and what they might do with it. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Broadway Sports Media in partnership with 440 Sports. And Justin, this might be the most exciting pod we've done this entire season. As a recap, the Titans lock up the number 1 overall pick as you pour a beer. Nice tilted glass pour there. Get a good foam head, but not too much. I like what you're doing. Titans get the results they need by losing to the Houston Texans. The New England Patriots beat the Buffalo Bills, and the Titans are on the clock for the 2025 NFL Draft. How you doing, Justin?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. I can't complain. I think you said it. Sadly, this might be the best recap we've done because, I mean, the win over the Dolphins wasn't exciting. The Patriots win certainly wasn't exciting. The Texans, I guess, whatever. You know, that was the best win they had all year. But look, what happened today needed to happen, right? Positive development with the loss. Again, I don't think they tanked. I think they tried to win. They're just bad at it, as we know. And the Patriots certainly tried to win, and they were successful in that. Joe Milton, I mean, Titans don't need it. They got to trade for Joe. I'm kidding. All the Vols fans, you know, there's going to be a couple of them on Twitter who think that. Positive developments all around. Number 1 overall. We'll have plenty of time to ponder what they do with it. All we'll say, I think, for now is it's a good position to be in, right? You think you could mess it up potentially, but it's a very good position to be in. You've got your choice. You're in control of the deck, right? Like you get to control Travis Hunter, the quarterbacks, all that stuff. So really, really glad at today's results. Absolutely.
There's a few things I think they could do with this pick. For me right now, and we are super early, there's going to be draft risers. There's going to be guys that fall. We don't know what's going to happen in April, but right now, as we stand and look at things, I think the Titans have 4 clear options, 5 if you throw in a trade down, but 4 player options that they could pick with this number 1 pick. It's Cam Ward, it's Shedeur Sanders, it's Abdul Carter, or it's Travis Hunter. And there was already been a report, Benjamin Albright tweeted this shortly after the results went final, that the Titans like Cam Ward. Now, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know how Ben Albright could possibly know that. A to Z Sports tweeted, this is false if Brian Callahan is still the head coach, which is an if. So that could be just like already getting things started. We've heard reports that the Giants like Cam Ward. So it's one of those 4 players or it's a trade back. In my opinion, right now, the teams right behind the Titans. At 2 is the Cleveland Browns. They could use a quarterback. At 3, the New York Giants. They definitely could use a quarterback. 4 and 5 are New England and Jacksonville. We know that they almost certainly do not want a quarterback. But then 6 and 7, the Jets and the Raiders are playing right now. So TBD how they shake out in the draft order. But they also are teams that could use a quarterback. So as it stands now, the Titans have the top pick, obviously. And there are 4 other teams in the top 7 that could use a quarterback. And now this is not a good quarterback class, is what everyone says. Justin and I are going to dive into the film ourselves. I know Justin's already done a good deal of tape study. I haven't done any study. I've just watched college football on Saturdays, and that's where my opinions come from right now. Over the next month, we're going to dive deep into draft breakdowns, especially for those 4 guys I just mentioned. But there's not 4 good quarterbacks. There's definitely not 4 quarterbacks worth drafting in the top 7. There may not be any. But right now, there are definitely not 4 quarterbacks worth drafting in the top 7. This is a great spot for the Titans to be in, to what, the point you said earlier about being in a great spot. Because you either take the player you want, you fall in love with a quarterback, you take the franchise-changing Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter player, or you work out a bidding war between these 4 teams, and somebody comes up to number 1 for a massive haul. If you guys will remember, I'm sure everyone remembers, the last time the Titans owned the number 1 pick was 2016. It was John Robinson's first year as a general manager. We're able to trade out of that pick down to 15 and then back up to 8. That set the Titans up with a boatload of draft capital that positioned them for the run they went on that culminated with the 2019 AFC Championship game appearance, right? So the Titans are in a great position to do something like that again if they can get the bidding war going, if they can get multiple picks in this year's draft, if they can get future first-round picks. That's franchise altering. That's how the Lions have been able to rebuild. You know, they traded Matthew Stafford for multiple first round picks, and they've been drafting 2 or more guys in the first round. It feels like every year since then. That's how you do it. So if the Titans really want to make the most of this pick, They turn it into multiple picks. You get multiple firsts in 2026. And it doesn't matter how good or bad you are next season, it gives you the ammo to move up as high as you need to for that franchise quarterback if they don't like any of the guys in this year's class. So all that to say, there's a lot of things they can do with this pick. That's part of having the number one pick, is you have every option on the table for you. But no matter what they choose to do, it's most likely going to make this team better. Is it guaranteed? Of course not, but most likely.
Well, the only thing that would really, really backfire, to be honest with you, is picking one of the quarterbacks at number one, and he's not a good player, right? I think that's the worst case scenario.
Well, is it though? Because if he sucks, you give him 2 years, and then you're picking top of the draft in 2027, which is when Arch Manning could be coming out. So I don't know.
Still not good, in my opinion, if that's the way that it goes. But this is going to be a really interesting decision because, first of all, it also depends on what you think of Travis Hunter, right? Like, if you think he's just a wide receiver or he's just a corner, for example, one of those hasn't gone number one since 1997, right? Like it doesn't happen.
Right.
If you think he's the two-way guy that he's been at Colorado and he's a marketable superstar, he's the Shohei Ohtani of the NFL, like there's a good argument you're just going to stick and pick him number one. The one thing I don't see happening, I'll be honest with you, as much as I love Abdul Carter, I'd be a little surprised if they just stuck at one and took him. I like him. He's not Myles Garrett. What I mean? Like, he's not the polished elite pass rusher, I think, that goes number one. If you're staying at one, I think it would be for Hunter, not for Abdul Carter. If it's a non-quarterback, of course, I should prefix that with. But like you said, you've already got the Benjamin Albright report on Cam Ward. You got A to Z saying that is not true. We'll see. My opinion on the quarterbacks, I don't think either one of them is worth the number one overall pick.
Right.
They may feel differently. Like I've been saying, people have just been assuming the Browns and Giants definitely are going to love one of these quarterbacks. They've got to take one number one. Their situation is no more desperate than the Titans. The Titans need a quarterback just as bad as those guys do. So if those guys need one or want one, for example, the Titans might feel the same way. And let's not underestimate the power of desperation, right? If Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan are in charge of making the decision, TBD, that stadium was empty today. They played terribly. All the money they spent in the offseason, Amy Adams-Strunk did not foresee that leading to the number one overall pick in the draft. So who knows how she's feeling about the people in charge right now and how horrible this season went. The Titans could make a surprise change at one of those or both of those, as we've discussed. So TBD on that. I'm sure we'll hear more Sunday evening, Monday, Tuesday, yada, yada. And we'll have a show for you right away if something happens. But they're in a good spot. Unfortunately, you wish this was a year where you had a Joe Burrow come. Of course, it's not. It's just the Titans' luck. But, Travis Hunter, there's potential there to be a marketable superstar, once in a lifetime kind of thing, once every decade, 2 decades, with what if he does at the NFL level, what he's doing in college. You trade down not too far. If it's the Browns or Giants, like you said, you're still getting probably not Hunter, in my opinion, unless you're moving down to 2, of course, or Abdul Carter if you're going to 3, for example. They're going to have lots of options. It's a good place to be. And the other thing they got away, if you go down a little lower than you'd like, as you and I have said, it's not a very good draft. You'd like to stay within striking distance of Hunter or Carter. If you go down to 6 or 7, like you said, that's not going to be great value right away. But these 2026 and 2027 drafts, they're shaping up to be really, really good. You get extra picks in those years. Patient, it will probably pay off eventually. It just sucks. You'll have to wait a little to go from number one to getting just a decent starter in this draft, right? You got to take that on the chin if that's the way you decide to go. But just the world is their oyster, right? Just everything's at their fingertips right now.
You could play a little 4D chess here. If you really don't like these quarterbacks, you think they're not going to be good, especially in year one, if you don't think they're going to be good, you trade with one of these teams hoping they come pick the guy and are terrible next year, terrible enough to get a top 2, 3 pick. Then, that's how you work it out. Now, the one thing...
Does Cam Ward make the Giants a 10-win team next year, right? Like, we highly doubt it, right? You never know. But the Browns, I think, are in a sneaky position. I think they still got a pretty good roster overall. I don't think the Giants are a bit of a different story. So, that I mean, look what happened to the Bears a couple of years ago, right? With the Bryce Young trade. So, Of course, that's best case scenario if you're moving out of the pick.
Exactly. And I do want to touch on something else you said there. First, I'm going to say this. Brian Callahan got to Cincinnati with Zach Taylor's staff in 2019. They went 2-14 that season. They ended up with the number 1 pick. Now, that draft class happened to include Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Tua Tagovailoa. It was a loaded draft class. It's not the same situation. But the Bengals, with that first overall pick, took Joe Burrow, and it completely changed the trajectory of their entire franchise. Now, they weren't good in Burrow's first year. Remember, he got hurt. I think he tore his ACL even. And they continued to suck. They got the number 5 pick in the next draft, and they took Jamar Chase. So the Titans, I mean, Brian Callahan has lived through that blueprint already. And then they went to a Super Bowl, right? Not too long after that. So could the Titans look to do something in that vein? They took Burrow and Higgins. Did they take Burrow and Higgins in the same draft? They did, right? 2020?
Yeah, because Higgins was the first pick of the second round.
Right. So the Titans, if they don't love these QBs, they may try to do the same thing in the inverse order. You'd get your Jamar Chase this year, and that could be Travis Hunter. And then the following season, you go get your quarterback because you still don't have one, so you likely be picking in another high spot. The question is Amy Adams-Strunk going to have the patience for that? Is Brian Callahan, Rand Carthon going to have the patience to sit through another season like the one we just lived through? Because that was a miserable year of football for every Titans fan in the world until today, until the zeros hit the board in Pat's Bills. It's been a miserable season, right? So I don't know if they would want to do that. And that leads me to my next point, which is kind of twofold. Number one, do you really let Brian Callahan make this pick? I mean, this is a franchise-altering pick if you get it right, and it's franchise disaster if you get it wrong. Now, is it super disaster? I don't know, because he could be back here again next year, and then it's like, who cares that you blew this pick? You don't want to blow this pick, though. You don't want to blow the opportunity when you're at the top of the draft. So do you trust Brian Callahan, after what you've seen this season, to go make the right call? And then the other side of it is, you got a new stadium opening in a couple years. Do you just take Shedeur Sanders because he's going to bring the eyeballs and he's going to sell tickets, even if he's not worth what you would typically consider to be the top pick in a draft? Does he have enough upside and enough excitement to his game that you just say, we got to sell tickets in the new stadium, draft the kid? Is that a possibility?
Well, you're not selling tickets in 2027 if he's not good, right? Because I mean, I know you get people maybe to sign up for PSLs now, but he'll have 2 years of play before you're opening the new stadium. So you'll already know if he's good or bad. And if he's bad, that stadium's going to be empty again, right? So it's sort of, I don't know. I mean, I do worry that, certainly job security forces people to make desperate decisions, right? Like if Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan are still in charge of this team come April, you would think they don't have a ton of, security moving forward, and it could lead them to do something, dramatic. And that's what I'm hoping to avoid, right? Like, look, they could pick Sanders or Ward, and one of them could be fantastic, and that would be great. But my personal evaluation right now is neither of those players is worth the number 1 overall pick. I don't have a ton of confidence that they're like an upper echelon franchise quarterback. They're not, a Joe Burrow, I don't think, someone that's going to truly, truly elevate. So for me, again, it's going to be a fascinating decision. I hope if they do, retain their jobs, that they're able to sit down with Miss Amy Adams-Strunk and say, this is not the year to take a quarterback. I know how badly we need one, but we're just, we're running the risk of setting ourselves even further back, and really tough to recover from that. They can't go further back than they are now, right? Like it would be more, I don't want to say it would be disastrous, because right now is pretty disastrous, but it would be even more disastrous, right? And you don't want that. So look, they should evaluate them. As long as they evaluate them with an open mind, and it's not out of desperation, we need to like one of them because we need one, then you live with the decision they make, I guess. But for me, it's Travis Hunter or trade down. I think that's the way I'm viewing this, but they might see it differently.
I think, still think the ideal situation is you move back not very far to like the 3rd pick. You let the Giants come up to 1 and take their favorite quarterback. You get the Giants' future pick. You get multiple picks in this year's draft as well, like a 2nd and a 3rd and next year's 1 or something. I don't know if that's too much to move back just 2 spots, but we are talking about the number 1 pick. We're not talking about moving back.
The quarterback tax is a real thing.
We're not moving back from 8 to 10. You're moving back from 1. So it doesn't matter where you go.
And you're turning down other opportunities and other offers from other teams. So I think whether it's, even though 3 is not that far, it would have to be a damn good offer.
And then at 3, if that team that comes up, so the Giants come up and take Cam Ward or Sanders, the Patriots take probably Travis Hunter, then you still get...
The Patriots are not at 2. It would be
Oh, the Browns are at 2, right?
Browns.
So the Browns take the other quarterback. You could still have your pick of Hunter and Carter. The Browns are like, oh, we're going to ride the last year of Deshaun Watson's contract out. We're going to take Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. You get the other one because the top 3 picks are probably going to be quarterback, Hunter, Carter. So the Titans at that 3rd spot would still get one of the 2 blue chip players that are in this draft class. And to me, that's the best you can hope for if they don't like the quarterback. If they think one of these quarterbacks is the guy, then you draft him at 1 and you just be done with it and cross your fingers that he pans out the way you hope him to pan out. The last thing I want to talk about before we hit I'll drink to that and close this, Justin, is Drew Aller. If Drew Aller changes his mind, the Penn State quarterback, if Penn State, goes off and beats Notre Dame and goes to the championship and beats Ohio State or Texas, and he's like, you know what, I accomplished everything I could accomplish. There are 4-5 quarterback needy teams in the top 7 in a weak quarterback class. I'm changing my mind. I'm coming out. Does that change how you view this pick for the Titans? Does it change how you rank the quarterbacks? Is Drew Aller worth the number 1 pick if he does declare? Does he have to put some great tape out the next 2 games for that to be the case? Where do you fall on that side of the coin?
I hate that you asked me that because it's such a hard question. I will say I don't want to take a cop out. He would be my number 1 overall quarterback if he was in this draft. Like I love the potential, and I know that's a dangerous word. When I watch him, I get this feeling, stupid thing to say, but it is based on some experience and work that I put in. Like if you asked me, gun to my head, do you think Drew Aller is going to pan out as an NFL quarterback? My answer is yes. Like I do really like him. I really like what I see from him, but I'm torn because again, if he enters the draft, he'd be my number 1 quarterback. But I still think there's some developing that's got to be done there. Quite a bit of it. He's rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Is he worth number 1? I mean, I guess I answered my own. Like, I want to say no, but then again, if I'm saying gun to my head, I think he pans out, then he is worth it, right?
Exactly.
But I have a hard time rectifying those 2 things because I think he's so rough around the edges. I'd be a little scared to take him at number 1, especially over a Hunter, for example. But yeah, I do think he would be the best quarterback in this draft. I mean, he's 6'4", 240. I know the physical tools, again, they get you in trouble, but I really like what I see. And when I watch him and I analyze him, I do see a path to improvement. Pat myself on the back a little. I really felt the same way about Josh Allen. Like I did not get, and I know that's the name that's going to be thrown out there if he ends. It's a little cheesy because of the size and the rawness. It's the name that always gets thrown out there. But I wish I could still find the article. Like one of my first years started covering the draft, I was very pro Josh Allen, and I didn't understand why others weren't. I really didn't. I liked him. I liked him a lot. And I just get the same really good feeling about Drew Aller. I'm on board with him.
I'm on board with him too. He'd be my QB1. And again, this is just a disclaimer. This is based on me watching college football on Saturdays. TV copy, no replay, no study. Just based on that, Drew Aller is my QB1. But he's not in the class right now. He has said he will not declare. If you missed the news and that was all confusing to you.
Yeah, he intends to return. And Dane Brugler tweeted it last week. He said Drew Aller intends to return. That could change with a big college football playoff.
Absolutely, it could. All right, Justin, we got one last thing to hit. I'll drink to that, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville. And maybe we should have structured this slightly differently because I'm obviously drinking to getting the number 1 overall pick. I mean, what else could you possibly drink to today? Let's drink to Joe Milton.
Vols legend, yes.
Balling out and securing a win for the Patriots. I also think there was an element of the Bills. We sort of talked about this last week. They don't want the Patriots to get the number 1 pick either. No. So they threw Mike White into the game in the 3rd quarter and said, Mike White, do your best, bud. Go lose us this game. So they pulled Josh Allen after not even a series. It was like a play. Put Mitch Trubisky in. Took Mitch Trubisky out when he was doing a little too well and put Mike White in. But also credit to Joe Milton because he actually looked really good out there.
Did,
I mean,
someone might trade for him this offseason.
Based on the game,
a 5th, 6th round pick. Why wouldn't you?
Right. I mean, it could be the Matt Falk game all over again. Remember when he balled out in the last week of the season for the Packers and the Seahawks gave him a massive contract and then drafted Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson became the starter. Anyway, I'm drinking to everything working out as absolutely picture perfectly as it could on Sunday. Will Levis trying to lateral the ball to Bryce Oliver or whatever, and it just bouncing on the turf for the Texans to scoop up and return for a touchdown. I mean, everything went exactly as every Titans fan could have hoped. Even if you were rooting for a win for today, just to see the Titans win in the Oilers uniforms, you got to be happy with how things turned out, because they did it. They got the top pick. And whether or not they go on to screw up this opportunity is irrelevant. I say live in the moment and be excited for the future, because it's the first time we've had a chance to be excited about the future of this team in 4 months. We were pretty excited in August, so I'll give us to August. But in the last 4 months, it's our first chance to be excited.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Like I said, I really didn't think this was going to happen today. I was like, I know the Patriots, they're going to try to win, but I think they're probably going to lose. You know what I mean? And Titans will have to settle for number 2 overall. But it's the first time this year, I think, right, that they've owned the number 1 pick. I don't remember them being in that position this year at all. And for it to happen right at the end, they just swooped in right at the end and stole the number 1 pick from right under everyone's nose. So it's, at this point, you've got to be on board with it. Again, they've got so many options at their fingertips. It's going to make for a fascinating offseason. And again, we'll know very soon. We might have another episode for you tomorrow. Who knows? If what's going on here with Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan, if they're going to be the ones to make that decision.
Exactly. So there you go. That'll do it for this one. I'll Drink to That, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville, serving the community since 1985. Their knowledgeable staff is proud to help you with large parties, themed events, or finding something unique for a special occasion. From birthday parties to milestone celebrations to everyday moments, Sinkers can help with the right drink for every occasion. And if you head to the sinkersbeverages.com website or check the link in this podcast description, you can join the In Crowd. In Crowd members get access to allocated wines and spirits, exclusive events, early access to barrel releases, and more. Plus, Sinkers Beverages is on Uber Eats. All right, Justin, we have a lot of content now that we need to start cranking out here as we get ready for the 2025 NFL Draft. We're going to have some special guests on this week. We're going to have a very objective, very intelligent football analyst come on and tell us what he thinks the Titans should do with the top pick. Then we're going to have another guest on to sort of just talk about the Titans and working for the Titans and what it's like being a Titans fan right now, especially. So another fun episode there. So we're going to have a serious one about the draft, and we're going to have a fun one about just life as a Titans fan coming up this week. So don't miss them. Make sure you are subscribed to the Music City Audible channel. Give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below. How excited are you with about the Titans to get the number 1 pick? What should they do, in your opinion, right now on January 5th, knowing that a lot can change about our opinions? What should the Titans do with the top pick? Let us know in the comments. And like I said, we'll be back with 2 episodes coming up this week. We're done recording on Sundays, Justin. That's kind of nice for our lives, for our schedules. It would be nicer if we were still recording on Saturdays and Sundays because the Titans were in the playoffs, but that was never going to happen this year. So there you go, everyone. We'll be back. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten the hell up.
Tighten up. Number 1 overall. No tighten down. Tighten up.
Tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.